Hello.
Hi.
Very nice to be here. Glad you all have something constructive to do on such a rainy day. This is called Old Negro Spiritual. There ain't no freedom. What man be free from the air him breathe, or set a loose from the ground what's under his 2 feet? It ain't a man nor woman born to being free. That's what the man was telling me. He had a name which might make you laugh awkwardly because it's hard to believe. Catfish. Old cat show need a drink, Him need a drink all right, he'd said and coughed. It sounded like his voice came from out of a hole, from underground and deep. I said I hoped he'd free himself from the whiskey one day. I've told you what he said to that. And when he said it, not as a preacher might, but as a man whose troubled heart was sad for every one of us, I nodded. He was right. And so by hook and crook in our dry county, we wound up with a bottle one late October night. Him know, he said, if they be any such what's true, old cat gonna have to wait. You gonna do some waiting too. I'd met him in the stripping room. He sang the oldest songs of all, and in between he'd tell me what a woman likes. They's one what is particular, he said, and blew the tobacco dust away from him. He had a crippled dog named Dog. Old cat, old dog, him like that cat, he said, as if he wasn't really there when we were well into the bottle and Dog had given him a wink. Has God forsaken anyone? Well, yes and no. It depends, I guess. Old cat descended one winter. Dog outlived him, but he missed that cat. This really happened long ago when I had more hope than I do now. But I remember being there, and sometimes it causes me to tremble. And there you have it, a white man remembering an old black man, remembering his voice, the way it sounded, a song inside the sound. It hurt to hear it then, and it hurts that I can't hear it anymore. This one has maybe some humor in it. Does for me at least. I can hardly read the title with keeping a straight face. The Dream of a Mountain Woman Big Enough for Me. I had a pretty good one last night. A dream. I'm calling it The Dream of a Mountain Woman Big Enough for Me. A heavy title, I know. But I like a little bigger woman. And mountain women are something else because they're from the mountains and big. Well, anyway, in the dream, I told her everything. I told her I like the things that come into the world already made, like a bird song or the purple on a pokeweed stem, the humble things that humble all the rest. You take the wind that slips across the hill. Nobody made it. Nobody taught it how to blow. I'm telling you, I like a wind. My arms were stuck out like a scarecrow's. She squinted her eyes and nodded slow. Then she stared right through me, smiled and said, "You couldn't never tell me enough." It was almost a whisper. More breath than sound, and I knew exactly what she meant. She wanted me to hush, So I hushed my foolish talk and dropped my arms, but accidentally I brushed my hand against her leg, and somehow it got stuck. And neither of us knew what caused it or why we couldn't get unstuck. So I started singing that song, the thigh bones connected to the... I paused. The Lord. The what? She said. The Lord told me to make you happy. Well, she said, well, ain't that something? Suppose you connect your hand bone to my back. Now, something like that will fill a man with hope. I told you mountain women are something else. You never know, not even in a poor man's dream that doesn't get too far. My hand was inches from her back and creeping closer when I woke up. If the dream had lasted longer, though, she had one heck of a question to ask of me. And did you tell the Lord you would? She would have breathed it out like that, our faces almost touching. If the dream had ended there before I had a chance to answer, Lord knows if I'd ever want another dream. This is, speaking of dreams, this poem, do y'all ever dream poems? Well, I know you dream. Do you ever dream poems?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm glad somebody else does. It makes me feel better. This one, I dreamed a lot of this. It's strange. This is called Pappy's Little Pistol. My daddy, the sometime king of rage and mourning, was resolved. I've done heard the black shroud flapping on the line, he said. Some angels washed it up and hung it out. It's got my name upon it, son, and it won't be long before I wear it. I nodded. Not because I wanted to, but because the old man's always had a way of ruling out dispute, as when in my 12th year or so he delivered his single sentence homily on women. Don't ever sleep with one you ain't willing to marry. Not a claim on behalf of virtue now, is it? You know, I've had to think about it a time or two. And that might be all he wanted. Now he wanted something else. Something he'd connived and dreamed about. But I don't want nary stitch on me when that damned old undertaker lays me in the box, he said. Naked as the first light of the morning is how I'm going out. He grinned like a possum. Okay, I said. I guess even an ornery cuss like you deserves a farewell do-si-do. Now I was grinning too, but then the sparkle in his eyes dimmed down. I ain't done yet, he said. I want you to load the shotgun and lay it with me in the box and hook my finger on the trigger. What makes you think you need a shotgun in heaven and load it too? I asked. 'Cause I ain't going to heaven first. Before I crossed the bar, I aimed to bust my pappy out of hell. He was one murdering son of a gun and never got the chance to be redeemed, so I'm going down to bring him back. No one was grinning now. Don't you believe in God and that stuff about the final mercy? I asked. Hell yes, he said, but sometimes the Lord's a little slow and the devil got my pappy first. He didn't have no other way to turn but mean. He stopped and looked upon the hills and hollers. We were at the homestead, the place where everything that happened had come to rest. A summer morning on the porch, the fog was burning off. The spring house burbled and sounded like a horse hitched to a beam and turning a wheel. What wheel could it have been but my defeat? My father said, I had a happy childhood here. I wish you could have had it too. didn't nod this time. He knew. Now, I don't know if I believe the devil's faster than the Lord, but I hope they write it down in heaven. The day some bow-legged hillbilly wakes up buck naked and blasts the doors of hell right off their hinges to fetch his outlaw Pappy from the fire. I'd say there'd be commotion down below and jubilation yonder. I've got one more called The Common Man. Well, it's me this time. I'm sitting here in a farmhouse. Things have happened here besides the sun and chimney smoke. But most of the time it's pretty quiet. In the cemetery down the lane, there's a stone for a long-gone woman named America, wife of so-and-so. Another woman's maiden name was Silvertooth. Both women died 200 years ago. The lane ran through the stream back then, and I found one half of a rusty bit to prove it. I suppose I'm common enough. I came from this dirt, from dark Kentucky ground, steeped in blood and steeped beneath my feet. All my life it's always up and down. I know the lay of the land. And like any rude provincial man, I am content with what I know. I know to find the yellow bar of moonlight pouring like a soul from the gap between two shrunken boards of the barn. A soul beyond the body and not inside it. Part of me resides out there. Part of you is out there too. Let's hope we got that much in common. Fair amount if you think about it very long. That's something to ponder. Thinking long. Not hard or deep, but long. In time, in distance. I do it all the time, though slowly, and as you can see, I haven't gotten very far. Oh, shucks. I've barely ever left the county. Hardly gone beyond the hill. Because I like it here. This morning I took my pocket knife and ate a turnip like an apple, as raw as love, right out of the ground. Doesn't get more commonplace than that. The dirt and bitterness undone by a single purple curl from the blade I sharpen Sunday nights to keep it ready for the week. Then I watched the horse's withers bristle. I saw the finger of the branch reach out to find the wind. I heard the bird who never lets me see her. She was telling me hello. And all I did was whistle back. Like that. My dog ran circles around it all. The briars bounced with joy as he weaved his song and being through them. And then the moon came up. And I went out to see it for a while. That's the way things are. Story here and there, but mostly here. There's hope in a world that's slowly happening, according to its own design, if you want to call it that. Oh yes, there's sorrow here. Not a day goes by that isn't stabbed with common sorrow, with death, regret, and loneliness. Some of us get a bigger portion of the little tragedies. That's not uncommon though, now is it? I've had my share and I'll have more, so will you. What matters most is not so much what happened once, but what will happen next. Who knows? And then the moon rose up behind the barn and I went out to see it. And then I went to sleep. And then I dreamed. And in my dream I saw a red light tumble like a leaf through the sky. In the morning something else was going to happen. I knew it. But I knew I didn't know it yet. Thanks.